Illegal IRS levies. Yes, some IRS levies are illegal. In fact, it happens far more than you may think. Here's your example. Mary filed her income tax return for last year, but she didn't pay the tax due. She just didn't have the money. Then 2 weeks ago, she received an IRS letter demanding payment, and that letter also added more penalties and interest to her delinquency. Yet that was the only letter that she received about that delinquency. So she figured that she would pay all of it in 2 weeks by using the annual bonus that she gets from work annually. Yet this morning, her bank called and said the IRS seized the money in her checking account. It also told her that it was going to pay her entire $4,200 balance to the IRS unless it received a, quote, release of levy, end quote. Now she's in a panic. That money covers 4 large checks, and she just mailed them yesterday for her rent, credit card, car, and insurance bills. But if the IRS gets all that money, those checks are going to bounce. And she'll not only have to pay the NSF and the late fees, plus she'll have to pay an additional $85 at the bank charges for forwarding her money to the IRS. How's that adding insult to injury? Here's how Digital Tax Attorney got to that result. 1. Mary proved that the IRS didn't send the written demands and the notices, meaning warnings, that the federal law requires. In other words, the IRS just can't levy Mary's accounts anytime it feels like it because it says that she owes money. And though it's true that it doesn't have to go to court to get a judgment against her or you before it can serve a levy to collect money, it still has to follow very specific steps required by federal law. Those steps require that the IRS gives you a series of demands and escalating warnings before it levies. Essentially, all of those warnings culminate in the IRS sending a letter entitled Final Notice, Notice of Intent to Levy, Notice of Your Right to a Hearing. To make the point, that final notice is usually delivered certified return receipt requested. Most importantly, it gives you 30 days to request a hearing and to avoid the threatened levy. And here's the punchline. During that 30 days, plus the time that passes before the hearing, plus the time that the hearing takes, the IRS cannot levy your property. And if it does, the levy is illegal. Now, Mary can show that those particular demands, those warnings, were not provided by the IRS. And secondly, Mary will immediately contact the IRS to address the seizure of her property. She's not going to wait. She'll do that before the bank pays the balance over. She'll get a copy of the levy and call the IRS phone number printed on it. And if she wants, she can even call the general information number that the IRS posted on the website or in the phone book. She knows the levy provides the bank with a date by which it's supposed to pay the money that's been seized. And that time is supposed to give her the opportunity to challenge that levy. So she's going to instruct her bank not to pay before the final date. She's going to tell the bank that she's challenging the levy. She's going to tell the bank that she's going to seek to get it released. And she's going to confirm with her bank in writing all the things that she told it, so that there isn't going to be a disruption in her account activity. Next, Mary will stay on top of the release of the levy process, and she's going to confirm with the bank when she receives the release copy, and she's going to make sure that the bank gets its copy too. She's also going to ask that the IRS fax a copy of that release directly to her bank so that the bank is caught up in real time. Now, if she doesn't do that, releases can take weeks, and in the meantime, that time period is going to pass. Here's your brain dart. Never assume that the IRS is right. The IRS does issue illegal levies. It does engage in illegal practices. It makes plenty of mistakes. But it's up to you to challenge what it is that it's doing. And if you don't, it's going to be the same as if what the IRS has done is right, as though it's legal. The IRS has all kinds of divisions, different kinds of computers, many different individuals working for it. And there are many times that the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. And there are many times that the individuals, the computers, and the divisions do not follow the rules. But the brain dart is, if you don't challenge IRS activity, even if it is improper, even if it is illegal technically, it's going to continue forward as though it is right, as though it is legal. Enforcing your rights are up to you. Nobody's going to do it for you. So here's your lesson. First, the IRS cannot issue levies when you're in bankruptcy or when you can prove that it promised that it wouldn't issue a levy, or after the IRS determines that you're, quote, currently not collectible, or during the 30-day period of time that you have to request a collection due process hearing, or when you're waiting for that hearing after you requested it, or during the time that the hearing continues forward. Also, the IRS cannot try to collect debts that had been previously paid, which had been settled through an offer in compromise, or which no longer apply because the statute of limitations on collection have expired. Point 2. The IRS issue levies against wages too. The primary difference between an IRS wage levy and a bank levy is that the wage levy remains in effect until the entire delinquency is paid in full. That means several consecutive checks can be taken automatically. On the other hand, bank levies are only good on the moment that it's received by the bank, so only the amount of money that's in the account at that time is going to be subject to the levy. But it is true, as much as the IRS can issue both a bank and a wage levy, they both can be illegal. Now, if the levy is illegal, there's nothing the IRS can do to require you to do something more. It must just simply release the levy. On the other hand, if that happens, you probably want to take steps to make sure that you move your problem closer to a resolution, because you have additional time, and so why not take advantage of it? You can establish a time payment plan. You can ask for a hold to be put on the account if you just need a limited period of time, or if you really are in financial straits, you can ask that your account be put into currently not collectible status. If you're seeking a time payment plan, you want to see our digital tax attorney, Black Magic IRS payment plans. Now, if the IRS issues an illegal levy, you must also request that any penalties and kind of costs be abated too. Otherwise, you're going to have to pay those. Now, also, sometimes, even though you know what the IRS has to do, you will encounter a rude, or if you will, an IRS representative that doesn't care about you. There's not many, but they exist. And if that's the case, ask for a manager. Remember, if you have not received the warnings that the law requires, you will and still remain eligible for a final notice. And that notice gives you a right of your administrative appeal rights. You want to exercise them if you don't have the ability to pay. If you do not exercise your appeal rights in that 30-day period of time, you waive them, and they're not going to be given to you twice. You want to pay attention to Digital Tax Attorney's IRS Administrative Appeals set, and it outlines the things that you need to know in order to ensure that you maximize your rights. Next, never lose sight of the requirement that you must stay in compliance with your current IRS responsibilities. And compliance means that you must file your tax returns on time and that you must pay your current taxes that are due from you on time. Stated in a different way, you want to show that you're trying to get back on the horse, even if you had problems in the past and you want to remain on the horse. It's a commitment thing. It's good faith. Okay? But more importantly, technically, you have to understand that you must demonstrate that you're in compliance in order to enjoy any of the protections, any of the rights that the federal law extends to you as a taxpayer. Because if you're not in compliance, those rights just don't pass to you. That's the key. And that's the lesson. Go ahead. Here's the digital tax attorney documents you're going to want to review. First, take a look at the sample telephone call detail and summary and use it. Second, there's a similar sample contact information detail. Please use it. Third, take a look at the sample IRS levy. Fourth, there's a sample IRS transcript. It shows you all the activity in your account. There's a letter to the bank. There's also a sample letter dealing with the release of levy, your intent to seek a release of levy, and your letter to the IRS addressing the agreements that you have reached with the IRS when it agrees to release your levy, and if it's going to agree to extend to you some delay in further collection action or determine that you're in current not collectible status or establish a time payment plan for you. Take a look at those documents, and you're going to have a segment here coming up that features how they are completed. Thank you. All right. Here's the digital tax attorney sets that you're going to want to consider. Again, no tax problem exists in an isolated way. So if you have an illegal IRS tax levy problem, you still have an underlying delinquency, which means that you're going to have penalties, for instance. And if you have reasons that those penalties should not be assessed, meaning charged against you, you're going to want to seek to have them removed. And penalties can add up to thousands of dollars. So you want to do the responsible thing and not just seek to have the illegal levy cared for and addressed properly, but you're going to want to reduce that demand so it's within your reach, if you will. At least you want to reduce it to the point that you're not paying money unnecessarily when you know you shouldn't. But the point is, all of these products address the individual components that are common to taxpayer strife, to the conflict that exists when a taxpayer owes a delinquency to the IRS. And those titles will appear over my shoulder. So, whether it's penalties or whether it's an administrative hearing issue or whether it's currently not collectible status and seeking to have that determined so that you can be relieved of the anxiety that goes with collections imposed by the IRS on a taxpayer and the family. Okay? All of these different sets are available, and you can pick or choose the ones that apply to you. Just the ones that apply to you. Thank you. Talk to a digital tax attorney. Standard 30-minute consultations over the telephone are billed at $75. But that's free if you get 2 or more digital tax attorney sets. Take a look at the details on our website that concern all telephone consultations and how to go about setting them up. But the point is, we make digital tax attorneys available to you so that you can become more knowledgeable, prepared, and ready to talk to the IRS in a knowledgeable way so that you can earn that respect. And you can tell them, you can demonstrate to them that you know enough about what the law requires the IRS to do so that you can't just simply be walked on, and that your rights have to be identified, understood, and maintained and protected. That's the whole purpose of digital tax attorney. That's why we say that our outreach in this manner making a half hour available to anybody that buys these 2 sets or more is industry revolutionary. Because we're going to talk to you about your problem. We're going to talk to you about what you need, about the questions that you raise. We're specific to you. We're not going to just talk to you about academics, about what somebody else's problem may be. So you're going to be able to make mileage to solve the problem with the IRS in a manner that you know and you feel is fit. What's good for you? Now, we also make our digital tax attorneys available to you to accomplish other things too. If you have a written preparation, a statement, for instance, that you want to have reviewed before it's submitted, we're happy to do that, and there's charges for that. But they're all modest, and I do say that they're modest. I understand that. I'm a tax attorney. Specifically, I am a tax controversy attorney. I've been in this work now for this is my 34th year. And I've done it with the singular intention over all that time to help people work their IRS problems to a resolution so that they can regain their life. And we know that the system, the industry, does not respond favorably, does not lend itself to people that have IRS problems that are worth $15,000 or less. In fact, if you listen to all the ads predominantly say if you have a problem worth $15,000 or less with the IRS, that they don't even want you to call. And the reason is they can't justify their fees. But that's what Digital Tax Attorney is singularly devoted to helping you accomplish successfully. Solving that type of IRS problem on your own, knowledgeably and completely. And to save you money at the same time. So, take advantage of our availability, if you will. And we're here for you. And we're more than happy to speak to you about your problem and to tell you, to give you our insights. You talk to me, I'll give you my 34 years worth of insights. You talk to any other digital tax attorney, tax controversy attorney, you're going to get the sum of their experience plus my experience. You're going to get all of our experience. And we're going to give it to you in a way so that you can use it. That's the key. And that's why we know that this is industry revolutionary. And thank you very much.